Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are jumping into what is probably the most famous chapter in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Most of us know it as the love chapter.
Right. It's the ultimate love poem. You hear it at every wedding.
Exactly. It's on cards. It's set to music. We think of it as this, very gentle, sentimental thing.
And that's the trap, isn't it? That sentimentality completely robs it of its power.
Right.
Actually, before we even start, I want to throw out a quote.
Okay.
It's from a satirist named Fort. And he said, "We have enough religion to make us hate each other, but not enough religion to make us love each other."
Wow. Okay, that definitely cuts through the gentle wedding vibe.
It does.
And I think that really frames what we're trying to do here. We're looking past that polite reading to see what Paul was actually dealing with.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because the sources we're looking at today, reflections from Pastor Hu Zikang, based on Warren Wiersbe's work, they frame this as a crisis document.
A crisis document.
Yeah. The core idea is that if you use spiritual gifts, even amazing ones, without love,
Yeah.
they're not just useless. They can be strongly destructive.
So that central question the sources ask, is there not enough love?
Yeah.
For the Corinthian church, the answer was a loud yes.
A resounding yes.
I had all the energy, all the gifts, but they were missing the actual, the lifeblood, the circulatory system.
Exactly. And that's why the placement is so important. If you just read chapter 13 on its own, you miss everything.
Right, it's not random.
Not at all. It's stuck right between chapter 12, which is all about spiritual gifts.
And chapter 14, which is about how to use them in public.
So it's the corrective lens. It's the key to making sense of all of it.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. I mean, we all know the famous lines, if I give all my possessions to the poor, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. And when you hear that alone, it just sounds like a nice general ethical rule.
But he wasn't writing a philosophy essay. He was performing surgery. This was a targeted correction for a church that was just completely fractured.
I mean, the sources describe the environment as weak, mixed, and even openly sinful.
It was a mess. This wasn't soft poetry. This was Paul aiming a fire hose at a 5-alarm fire of ego and chaos.
And that's where the context is just so fascinating. We have to talk about the specific problems in Corinth. This wasn't just, small disagreements.
Oh no, this was internal warfare.
All right.
I mean, the list of things Paul was dealing with is why chapter 13 was so necessary.
Okay, so what was number one?
The abuse of the gift of speaking in tongues. It was the flashy gift, the impressive one.
One you could show off.
Absolutely. They were using it as a status marker, which of course fed right into the next problem.
Which was?
Factionalism. Just fierce infighting. People were literally saying, I follow Paul, or I follow Apollos.
Creating these little spiritual cliques?
Exactly. And that breeds jealousy. Right.
Yeah.
Jealousy over who has the better gifts. And that just spills out into, plain old selfish behavior.
But it got worse than that. I think the most shocking part is the litigation.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
They were suing each other in front of non-believers.
Think about what that says to the outside world. It screams, we can't handle our own problems, and my money is more important than our witness. It's just devastating.
And on top of all that, even in their church gatherings, they were apparently shaming each other.
Right. There was no concern for one another. So you put it all together, the jealousy, the lawsuits, the public shaming. Paul is basically saying, you have these amazing gifts from God, and you are acting worse than the pagans down the street.
So he was challenging their entire value system. They were prioritizing charisma, the showy gifts.
Over agape.
Yeah.
Over that foundational, sacrificial love. The sources really stress this. Gifts are only constructive when they're motivated by love. Otherwise, they're just tools for self-promotion.
It's like the gifts themselves are neutral, but love is what directs them toward either building up or tearing down.
That's a great way to put it. And the analogy the sources use is perfect. Love is the circulatory system of the body of Christ.
It's not just decoration.
No, it's the lifeblood. Christian maturity isn't about how bright your spiritual fireworks are. It's about the quiet, steady growth of your love for God and for others.
Which brings us back to that idea of performance without substance. Paul talks about these grand gestures, speaking in tongues, giving everything to the poor.
Right.
But if the heart isn't right, if that circulatory system isn't working, it's all just noise.
Exactly, just noise. He says it's like a gong or a clanging cymbal. It makes a loud sound, it gets attention, but it's hollow. It's empty.
It's a powerful warning against, spiritual hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You can fool everyone around you, but the motivation is what matters.
And if that motivation is just about you, it's not only meaningless, it's actively harmful to the community.
Which I think is a perfect transition, actually, because if your actions can be hollow, then the way you see yourself can also be, well, really misguided.
Oh, absolutely. And this gets to a really critical point in the source material about identity. Getting your identity wrong is what leads to all the arrogance and judgment that kills love in the first place.
Okay, so the sources lay out two major identity traps. Let's start with the first one, Saint arrogance.
This is when you focus only on your identity as a child of the king. You see yourself as like a spiritual prince or princess.
And what does that do?
It leads straight to arrogance. You start thinking you're on a higher spiritual plane than everyone else.
And you become a gatekeeper.
Yes. You start judging people who you think have fewer gifts, or maybe their theology isn't as pure as yours. You label them unloving or lacking faith.
And that's exactly what was happening in Corinth.
It's the engine of factionalism.
Yeah.
You're so sure you're right that you completely forget the basic call to serve others in humility.
Okay, so then you have the complete opposite of that, the second trap. Sinner self-condemnation.
And this is just as dangerous. This is when you only focus on your identity as a sinner. You just dwell on your flaws, your mistakes.
And you get trapped in this, like, mental prison.
It's a self-imposed one.
Yeah.
It's crippling. You fall into self-pity, low self-esteem.
It's almost like you're rejecting salvation.
Functionally, yes. You're basically saying that Christ's forgiveness wasn't enough to actually change you. The sources say you're refusing to believe God's word about your own redemption.
So you're just paralyzed. You can't serve anyone because you're so stuck in your own head.
Right. So if you put it all together, the idea is that you have to hold both identities at once.
You walk into church as both a sinner who desperately needs grace
and as a saint who is empowered by that same grace to serve. It's a balance. Tip too far one way, you become an arrogant judge. Tip too far the other way, you become a paralyzed victim.
And that love, that agape, can only function when you're living in that balance.
Exactly.
Which makes total sense of why the sources then pivot to talk about the need for a physical community. You can't find that balance alone online.
You really can't. Because this kind of corrective love requires actual presence. It requires accountability.
What's the danger of trying to do it remotely?
Well, the sources are pretty blunt. When your behavior starts to drift, when you're leaning into arrogance or sinking into self-pity, an online pastor, someone on a screen, they don't know you.
They can't see what's really going on.
They can't extend a hand to pull you up. They can't sit you down and, lovingly rebuke you or correct you.
You can just curate your own reality.
You can't. You'll only listen to voices that confirm what you already believe.
Yeah.
And the sources explicitly warn against stopping gathering together, because you start creating justifications for your own behavior that just lead you further away.
It's the friction, isn't it? The physical community is where the friction is. It's where you have to deal with the messy, difficult, judgmental people.
Yes.
If your faith is just you and a screen, you never have to actually apply this difficult, messy, corrective love that Paul is talking about.
That's the whole point. The power of 1 Corinthians 13 is that it's a remedy for real-world chaos.
Yeah.
It's a survival guide for a dysfunctional family. It makes love a practical, gritty necessity, not just a sweet feeling.
So to sort of wrap this all up, what we've done is take this chapter off the pretty wall plaque and put it right back in the middle of the messy, chaotic, competitive church it was written for. It's not an idea, it's an instruction manual.
Right, an instruction manual for dealing with conflict, with ego, with the misuse of power. It makes love this incredibly vital, hard-won thing.
It really does. It forces you to move past just saying the words.
Because if you could sing the songs and memorize the lines, but you can't apply it when things get messy, when people are being selfish or arrogant,
right,
then what have you really gained? You're becoming the clanging cymbal yourself.
And that's the question we want to leave you with. What relationship, what situation in your life right now needs you to apply this kind of love? Not the sentimental kind, but the real corrective, contextual love Paul was describing.
The love that steps into the mess.
Exactly, the love that steps in. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.